The sun of Lagos burned gently over the neighborhood of Oraranchoki, where a modest three-story house stood among cracked pavements and the restless hum of traffic. It belonged to Mama Nena, a calm and graceful woman whose quiet strength often hid years of pain. Widowed young, she had built this house with her own hands, turning it into her only source of income. But lately, her home had become her biggest burden. Her tenants, especially Toby and his girlfriend Amara, had made her life unbearable. Toby was a young man who believed the world revolved around his swagger, and Amara, with her endless laughter, matched his arrogance perfectly. Every morning, Mama Nena woke up to loud music, laughter echoing through the corridor and the smell of fried plantain. When she greeted them, they ignored her or mocked her accent behind her back. Still, she stayed calm, whispering to herself, "A goat that mocks the butcher's knife doesn't know it's meant for him." Days turned into weeks, and the disrespect only grew worse. Rent stopped coming, excuses multiplied, and parties filled the nights. Toby's friends crowded the compound, littering bottles, shouting and singing until dawn. The other tenants, like Chica, the single mother, and Kunal, the young tailor, complained but were too afraid to speak out. Through it all, Mama Nena never raised her voice. She knew that true power never shouts, it waits. One cloudy evening, as thunder rolled across Lagos, she stood by her window watching Toby and Amara argue outside. Their voices rose until Amara insulted her, calling her a useless old woman. That night, something inside Mama Nena changed. She looked up at the photo of her late husband and whispered, "It's time they learned respect." The next morning, she moved like a woman on a mission. She hired an electrician, a plumber, and a carpenter, and given quiet instructions. For 3 days, men came and went, working in corners, whispering, adjusting wires and locks. The tenants grew curious. Toby laughed it off, telling everyone maybe she wants to turn this old place into a palace. But Mama Nena only smiled and said nothing. Then the weekend arrived, and as always, Toby threw his noisy party. The music shook the windows. Laughter, dancing, and shouting filled the compound until dawn. But when morning came, the entire house went dark. The power was gone. By noon, the water tap stopped running too. Confused and angry, Toby stormed out of his room, shouting, "Mama, what nonsense be this? Why, light, no day." Mama Nena stepped out of her room, holding her prayer beads with calm grace. "My son," she said softly, "the bills have not been paid for months. The power company came. I told them to cut everything until all tenants pay what they owe." Toby blinked in disbelief. "You mean we go day without light?" She smiled. "You said you wanted freedom, Abi. Now you are truly free." The compound fell silent. No one laughed. No one played music. The next 2 days were torture. The heat became unbearable. Sweat rolled down faces. Phones died. Food spoiled. Tempers rose. Amara couldn't take it, packed her things, and left. Toby tried to act tough, but when his generator broke down and he couldn't charge his phone, his pride melted away. On the third evening, he knocked on Mama Nena's door, something he had never done politely before. "Mama, please," he said with genuine humility, "help us restore light. I go paid tomorrow." Mama Nena looked into his eyes and saw a boy who finally understood shame. "Toby," she said gently, "when you insult an elder, you block your blessings. This house is not a playground, it's a home." He nodded, eyes down, voice small. For the first time, he said, "Thank you, Mama," and meant it. That night, she sat on her veranda, the streetlights flickering far away, the compound finally quiet. She gazed at her husband's picture inside her room and whispered, "You see, Chike, our house still teaches lessons." The cool breeze carried the faint sound of church bells from a distance, as she smiled to herself, not out of pride, but peace. Her revenge had not been through shouting or eviction, it was through silence, wisdom, and patience. The same patience she had learned through years of struggle. Yet, just as she thought calm had returned, something strange began to happen in the compound, voices whispering in the night, mysterious knocks on her door, and one morning, a letter slipped under it with words that froze her blood. The next morning, Mama Nena awoke to an eerie silence in the compound, the air thick with tension. Toby had stayed up all night, pacing in his small room, realizing for the first time that his arrogance had consequences. Amara was gone, and even some of the rowdy friends had quietly moved out, leaving only a few trembling souls who dared not speak. Mama Nena, however, felt a thrill run through her. This was the moment she had been waiting for. She descended the creaking stairs and found Connell, the young tailor, nervously trying to adjust his sewing machine. "Connell," she said softly, "it is time for the truth to be heard." He flinched but nodded, knowing better than to argue. Outside, the sun was rising, casting long golden beams through the dusty windows, highlighting every cracked tile and peeling paint of the house. Mama Nena walked through the compound as if it were a stage, her presence commanding attention. Toby emerged from his room, rubbing his eyes, still in disbelief at the sudden emptiness around him. He opened his mouth, but Mama Nena raised a hand, silencing him. "Sit," she said simply, motioning to the old wooden bench in the courtyard. Heart hammering, he obeyed, and Connell followed, trembling. Mama Nena's eyes swept over the young men who had mocked her, and a subtle smile curled her lips, a smile that promised that the quiet storm she had been brewing would now break. She began recounting, in a calm voice that made every word sharper than a sword, how she had managed her finances, her struggles after her husband's death, and the sacrifices she had made to keep the house running. She spoke of respect, patience, and the consequences of arrogance. "You think this house belongs to you because you pay a little rent." "No," she said, voice rising slightly, carrying over the silent courtyard. "It belongs to those who honor it, those who honor people." Toby's face went pale. He tried to interrupt, but every word he would have said caught in his throat. Amara's name surfaced in her tale, not as an insult but as a lesson. How easily respect can be lost. How fleeting pleasure is when built on the misery of others. By the time she finished, the young men were silent, staring at her as if seeing a ghost, or perhaps the true spirit of the house they had disrespected. Then Mama Nena leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried more weight than her previous words. "And now," she said, "you will all see that every action has its consequence, and mercy is sweeter than any mockery." Without warning, the door of Toby's room opened, and the carpenter walked in, holding a small wooden box, polished and sealed with care. Mama Nena took it, her fingers delicate yet firm, and opened it slowly. Inside were documents, receipts, and plans she had carefully prepared over weeks' proof of debts, missed payments, and the terms of tenancy clearly violated. Each young man's eyes widened as they realized she had anticipated every excuse, every lie, every attempt to avoid responsibility. "This," she said, placing the documents on the bench, "is the mirror of your arrogance. It reflects exactly who you are when you think the world owes you respect without giving it first." Toby tried to snatch the papers, but his hand trembled and he pulled back. He was no longer the boy who laughed at her. He was humbled, aware that he had underestimated her wisdom. Then Mama Nena's gaze shifted to the young men who remained silent, those who had stayed to witness the lesson. "You are lucky," she continued, "because not every teacher is patient. Some punish first and explain later." Her words left chills down their spines. Later that evening, the power returned, but it was different this time. The lights flickered, casting long shadows that danced across the courtyard. Toby and the others were required to sit with her as she taught them basic household responsibilities, not as servants but as a lesson in humility. Cleaning the house, fixing broken tiles, and even cooking simple meals for the other tenants. At first they grumbled, but Mama Nena's calm insistence was like iron covered in velvet. By the third day, laughter returned, not the mocking, reckless laughter of before, but a subdued, grateful one tinged with respect. Something had shifted. Toby looked at her one evening as she stirred the pot of soup, and his voice broke as he said, "Mama, I never thought." I don't even know what to say. She smiled without looking up. Say nothing, my son. Let your actions now speak louder than your past words. As days turned into weeks, the compound transformed. The house, once the stage of arrogance and disrespect, became a small haven of cooperation and careful joy. Toby started helping other tenants. Amara's absence, a reminder of fleeting recklessness. And even Cunnel the tailor felt pride in the small improvements he made around the house. Yet Mama Nena knew her work was not complete. True respect takes more than obedience. It requires understanding, reflection, and transformation. One afternoon, a young boy from the street watched her quietly, eyes wide with admiration, and she took a moment to speak to him. Respect begins at home, she said softly, and when you learn it, the world learns to respect you in return. That boy ran off, repeating her words to anyone who would listen, unknowingly spreading the lesson she had fought so hard to teach. Then came the unexpected twist. One rainy evening, as Mama Nena closed her shutters, a letter arrived from a prominent NGO offering her a grant to improve her community house and expand her social work. Her heart skipped a beat. The same house that had been mocked, the same people who had doubted her, was now the source of admiration beyond her neighborhood. Toby and the other tenants watched her read the letter, their eyes wide in awe. Mama Nena's voice, calm yet proud, resonated through the rainy night. Never underestimate patience, preparation, and the quiet power of dignity. She looked at Toby, who finally met her gaze without fear. Now you know, my son. Respect earns more than fear ever could. The rain poured harder, washing away the dust from the courtyard and leaving a fresh, glistening scent. Mama Nena stood by the veranda, the lights of the house reflecting on the wet tiles, feeling a deep sense of triumph, not the petty victory of revenge, but the profound triumph of wisdom, resilience, and grace. Toby Cunnel and the remaining tenants had learned a lesson that would stay with them forever, carried in their hearts as the house itself seemed to whisper, respect, patience, and humility will always outlast arrogance and mockery. The compound, once chaotic, was now alive with a quiet harmony, a testament to the enduring power of a wise woman who refused to be disrespected. And as Mama Nena looked at the horizon, the clouds parting to reveal the golden sun, she whispered, "This is more than victory. This is legacy."